Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Jerry McGuire, founder of STARS. I'm the host of our STARS podcast, STARS Speak, Understanding the Science of Stuttering, where voices are heard, understanding of stuttering grows, and awareness moves forward. Each episode features unscripted and honest conversations with researchers, clinicians, and persons who stutter who are dedicated to advancing the science, treatment, and understanding of this condition. Yeah, stuttering, a field that really deserves greater attention, collaboration, and research. I'm really honored today to have joining us Tony De La Mora. And Tony, tell us just a little bit about yourself, Tony, and welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on the podcast, Dr. McGuire. I'm Tony Delamora. I'm 30 years old. I live in South Bend, Indiana, so smack dab right in the Midwest. Um, Professionally, I've been in the United States Air Force Reserves for about 6 years. Um, and I've also been working in cybersecurity that exact same time period as well. I joined up in the Air Force back in the fall of 2020. Um, went through basic military training for about 2.5 months over at Lackland Air Force Base. That's down in San Antonio, Texas. Um, Definitely a great time. Walking right off the bus, having like 3 or 4 drill sergeants do what's called a shark attack and come at you, put you on your face, have you do a bunch of push-ups and stuff. Um, Great experience. If you haven't done it, totally recommend it. Um, and uh, Right after that, I went into my tech school at Keesler Air Force Base. That's over in Biloxi, Mississippi. Went there from about February to April. And that's when I got more of the specific training in cybersecurity itself. It's kind of like a college and like more of like a military setting. So like you have your dorms, trainees there, classes you go to, courses you have to pass and stuff. It was great, um, and it trained me into being what's the terminology for it? It's cyber systems operations or 3 Delta 0 X 2. Um, that's like the specific AFSC, and that's
Right,
my
that's a tough thing to say, even for those of us who don't stutter. So that's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
darn good. That's good.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
It's
That's a mouthful, right? So
yeah.
all that means, yeah.
It is a great career field.
Mhm,
I love it. In the civilian sector, it's like
mhm,
it's more of a cybersecurity domain.
mhm.
Um, and I graduated, like I said, April of 2021. Got back to my home unit over at Scott Air Force Base. That's close to St. Louis, Illinois, St. Louis, Missouri. Um, and there was some training I did there for about 2 months, and then after that, I found just general work in the federal government because when you join up into the reserves, it's pretty much a part-time commitment once you're done with your training and stuff. So it's like typically 2 weeks a year and pretty much like one weekend per month, unless you are actually deployed. Um, so I've worked at Fortune 100 companies. Previously, at Geico as a cybersecurity engineer, and currently I work as a cybersecurity engineer as well over at the Defense Logistics Agency, or DLA for short. Um, and in that capacity, it's a lot of briefings that we have to do to like some higher level GS positions, at times colonels, generals, that sort of things, and we're looked at as like the technical specialist. So, um, in short, in my position, we perform several thousand scans on all of the whitelisted websites that are a part of the DLA domain. So those are trusted sites that are a part of DLA. So this could be sites for the Department of the Navy, Marines, stuff like that, that all of our vendors use. So since it's a logistics agency, all of the purchasing goes on for the entire federal government through there. So if for example, so like if for example, like we're not performing our jobs correctly, there might be like a vulnerability found, exploited, and a Chinese hacker takes down a major purchasing website that the Department of the Navy uses, and that has long term effects on the rest of
Mm,
our military mission. So
got it.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll keep you there. I want to keep things
yeah,
safe, right? So, Tony,
yeah,
and you're a person who stutters, right? You're doing
correct.
this high level, high level, very important work. A lot of brain power with that, and a
Yeah,
lot of trust for
yeah,
people. I mean, the 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 freedom of the world is depending on a lot of what you do, and you're a person who stutters. So, tell me about your journey as a person who stutters. How did,
yeah.
especially when you said you talk to generals, and these drill sergeants, what's called a shark attack. I've heard of Shark Tank, but this
Shark
is Shark
attacks.
Attack. Okay, so it doesn't sound like it's a easy thing for anyone, but for
No.
a person who stutters, maybe just kind of explain that a little bit for those
Yeah.
who.
Yeah. So I think like most other people who stutter, it started at a very young age, 3 or 4 years old. I went through all the classic things we go through as children, where trying to go into a classroom, read a textbook out loud, you get stuck on even starting, even like saying your name. I get stuck in what I like to call like loops, and just go and talk the first 2 or 3 words of what you're going to say in a sentence, restart over and over again. Um, and there was even times where I remember in seventh grade history class, I remember this, it was in like May of 2007, um, walking past my teacher or whatever in the hallway, and she was in her classroom talking to another teacher. She's like, yeah, that student, Tony Delamora, he is never going to amount to anything unless he can learn to read out loud and
Oh
talk,
man.
because they thought I was just mute. They literally thought I just could not talk. And
Mm,
I went through times like that in my life, which kind of broke me down a bit. And
I'm
it's
sorry.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, hey, congratulations on coming through that. I'd like to say that um, that's unusual, but it's unfortunately the stigma that we receive, especially even as kids, and
yeah.
what we may amount to. So, a congratulations on
Yeah.
uh, and persisting and being resilient, overcoming. But so this sticks with you today, right? And then you mentioned that makes it hard. That's fine. How has that made it difficult? There's been some challenges, correct?
Yeah.
You said,
Correct. So, I think, like to your point earlier about giving briefings to generals and colonels and stuff, like there's been times in my career within the Air Force where I've had to give a briefing to 20, 30 people in a room, and I'm like over here trembling, shaking, sweating, face all red. And the very first thing people want to say is, hey, relax, talk slower, don't talk like a robot, Tony, slow it down a bit, all those things. People generally try to help. It's not their fault. They actually want to help. They just don't know the right things to say or do, which makes it worse for us. Um, and it sounds cliche, but the best thing for me to do in those moments is to push through. So don't really try to step away from that. Don't try to protect yourself by closing yourself off from the world. You think you're helping yourself? You're not. You're making it worse long term. Um, don't let your stutter hold yourself back from your career, your personal goals. Like if today you're a young kid, you wake up and you're like, hey, I want to be an astronaut. Go out and do it. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot do it just because of your stutter. That is a poor excuse, and people want to hold you back because of that. Don't let that happen.
right? And don't let others prejudge your abilities just because it's challenge for you to speak out in class as in sixth grade. Great.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you want to talk and give a presentation, go ahead and do it. Just speak from your heart. And if people have a problem with it, honestly, the other thing too, stick up for yourself. Don't let people bully you. It's easier said than done. It took me a lifetime to get to this point, but I'm a
Hmm.
lot better now at calling people out when they are like, hey, Tony, did you forget your name when I go to place an order for coffee at Starbucks? And I'm like, no, I have a stutter actually. This is what it is. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? And then you get
Hmm.
to explain to them what it is. So, yeah.
Good. Thank you. You say it wasn't always that easy for you.
No, no, it was not always that easy at all. No,
Maybe kind of
no.
expand on that so others understand. There's
Yeah,
others out
yeah.
there struggling today.
Yeah, so I think it gets a lot more complicated when you become like a teenager, young adult because that's when you truly find your way in the world, right? So that's when
Mhm.
you have that coming of age moment, right? Is graduating high school, figuring out, hey, what am I gonna do for a job? And back then, when I was like 18 or 19 years old, I'm like, okay, I have to find a job where I can work at night, not talk to people, and um, I think I was working at a Meyer grocery store when I was like 18 or 19 for like a year or so, stocking shelves overnight because I didn't have to talk to anybody really except maybe a manager on staff at that night. And I was okay with it, but really wasn't being as productive as I wanted to. Um, and there was countless moments where I would try to communicate with either just trying to call to pay my Verizon phone bill. Couldn't even say the credit card numbers that I had to pay my phone bill. Um, had to go get like a driver's license, and the people there didn't even want to give me a license because I couldn't talk. I would just get so stuck on my words. They thought I had like an intellectual disability, and they're like, "Hey, we can't trust you on the road." I had to even get like a doctor's note at the time just so I get a driver's license because they I couldn't talk. It was a lot worse as a kid. Um,
So here you are being
yeah,
judged. This kid's not going to amount to anything. You're told that
yeah,
from a teacher. You overhear that.
yeah,
The motor vehicle's like, we can't trust this guy behind the road. You're managing cybersecurity,
yeah,
right? You're like doing high level, complicated stuff that I don't understand.
yeah.
Interesting. So people prejudge us. And so what's the message? What you just said earlier, right? But because there are individuals who may say, hey, I'm going to just do the stocking shelves. I know individuals where that's it because it's an avoidance of speaking. But I'm not trying to, it's not easy to speak to a general. It wasn't, I'm sure, for you to get through
No,
that.
no, and I think honestly, one of the most important things when you have a stutter is dealing with the other comorbidities. All of the other like mental health uh, disabilities you could have. So, take for example, social anxiety, OCD, ADHD. All those things can contribute and kind of just make it worse, right? So I think if you can go and talk to your doctor, get treatment for those things, that also helps as well. Um, it's never going to be a perfect world where you can force everybody to change, but every little bit can help you along the way. I think most
Right.
definitely.
Right. And I think it's part of the goal of STARS is to help the advocacy so the world understands that this is neurologically based, that that child who's struggling speaking in class is not related to an intellectual disability, that the motor
Mhm,
vehicles people understand that. But then we also have to have that understanding within. What has been your journey of arriving to where you are today? How have you
mhm.
come to this point where you said there were times when you've struggled, and how have you addressed those, Tony?
Yeah, so I think the best things for me throughout the years is just trying to lean on family, friends, people around me that I know and trust.
Mhm.
It took honestly until I flew out to go see you, Dr. McGuire, back in this was I think spring of 2022.
I think
I
so.
brought I brought my mom out with me, and even then she was kind of like, "Is stuttering really that bad, Tony? Do you really have it that bad?" And then after she kind of talked to you, and this was when I was like 20, 25 years old, and she was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't really think it was that serious. I didn't understand what was going on in your head, and didn't know that it was a true disability." And I'm very grateful for the creation of stars because even back then we talked about creating a platform like this to
You had
promote
talked to Mr.
research,
McGuire, you got to get
treatment.
this there. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and it was a great idea, and I'm so happy it's come to fruition. Definitely.
Thank you. And what was your mission with that from your goal? You would say, hey, Dr. Moore, we got to get this message out. What is that message that Tony De La Mora, STAR's community advisor, right? One of the founders of this. What is that message that you have that you want people to know?
I think the message is that um, as stars, we should always be trying to push forward for all types of treatment. This could be any sort of prescription medication, research, speech therapy, social acceptance, and pushing Congress are pushing anybody in the government for more funding, like other disabilities, like Alzheimer's, that's been brought up previously, which affects a fraction of the people compared to people who stutter. They have also a true disability as well, right? But
Mhm.
that affects them for about 5 or 10 years of their life, which is horrible, a terrible thing. But for people who stutter, it's from like age 3 to the day you die. It does not go away, and our fluency can be our disfluency can be mild to very severe, right, and changes from day to day. So I think part of that is also I'm trying to advocate and teach people around me, like everybody, like colleagues, peers, doctors, everybody, tell them exactly what stuttering is. Get the word out there, because compare this to like ADHD 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people didn't really consider it a true disability. They were just like,
Right.
that's one of those things that happens in possibly like young boys. That's it.
Mhm.
And I think we're at that changing point of stuttering where we're going to make great progress, and stars is going to push for that. And that's been a true blessing for me to see this come. Yeah.
So, so Tony, our colleagues in Japan, an associate of Dr. Kikuchi, who works with us at STARS, right? He's one of our volunteers.
Hmm.
They have a new study out showing that there's a high comorbidity of social anxiety and even depression with stuttering. So, and we know that physicians, the great majority of medical doctors who are equipped to
Hmm.
treat depression and social anxiety, even psychologists
Yeah.
who are equipped, don't know about stuttering. So, what do you hope to do along with your other colleagues, the other community advisors and stars? What do you hope to do to kind of increase that knowledge? What is the plan? What do you guys seek to do?
I, I love the question. This is
Yeah.
something my colleagues Zach
Mhm.
Green, Annie Hernandez, Sam, and Mora have all been talking about this last year.
Mhm.
Um, Zach's thankfully leading that, and we've come up with a great name for it, Stars Align,
Yeah.
and it is brand. I have honestly like, never seen something like this in the stuttering space on like Facebook, Reddit, stuff like that, and pretty much what it is that we're trying to create more I guess like advocacy towards the treatment of stuttering, not just creating a traditional support group where people who stutter come and talk about the problems that's going on in life. That's a great thing to have as well, but this is like we're going to be having like monthly Zoom sessions with actual specialists in the field. So psychologists, researchers, speech language pathologists, and stuff, and have like a theme every month. So, say take the month of June, it could be we're gonna have a speech language pathologist on there, and questions from the public of like say parents, moms, dads, kids, grandparents about hey, what is stuttering? How can we help our children? What are some speech fluency techniques that we can use to help them, right?
Mhm.
Or having in the month of July actual clinical researchers on there talking about new drug developments like the one you're currently working on, Gemla I'm
Yeah.
probably
Yes.
pronouncing it terribly,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's gonna be coming soon as well, and then we're gonna be coming out with like a monthly like newsletter for all of like the newest trends, all of like, the new research coming out, any new any new clinical trials and medications and stuff, all of that, right? And then hopefully long term create some sort of I guess like regional chapters or some sort of regional conferences, like
Mhm.
say like somewhere like in the Midwest,
Yeah.
maybe even South Bend eventually. Chapter in Florida, the West Coast, East Coast, place like that, and then eventually take it worldwide, right? Because this is not just a U.S. phenomenon. This affects the entire world, right? Which is where we're trying to go towards. So I think Stars Align is filling a void that has never really had people who stutter take control of that. So it's a great thing. Yeah,
It is. I think so too. And I think when your mom came out to visit, and I think the impact of understanding that this is neurologically based, it's
yeah,
biologic. She said she gained an understanding. You always kind of knew this. You knew that's why you saw it. You say, hey, there's something up with my brain. At that
yeah.
point, how does that help aid with the understanding from your mom and others that this is brain based? What does that
Uh,
do for an individual?
Honestly, for a person who stutters, when the people around you understand, it kind of takes the load off you a bit. Like you
Good.
feel more comfortable,
Mhm.
you stutter a little bit less, and if you do stutter, you don't feel as like flustered, out of control, and life slowly begins to get better.
Mhm.
Um, Honestly, I take that point back to when I brought my mom out there to the changing point of my life where my stutter got way better. I began telling people around me I have a stutter, like my wife, my son. I even thought when I had a kid, hey, how is my son going to look up to me as a person who stutters? Like, how is he going to be like, hey, you're my dad. You you're a man. How do I look up to you for support and advice if I can't trust you speak, right?
Mhm.
And I've gotten past that point just because it's really nothing to be ashamed of.
Mhm.
Um, and I think just it's honestly a great thing to just share with people you have and get them to realize what it is. It just changes your mindset. So yeah,
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you sharing that. I do know there's other younger individuals too, kind of, in that phase of life, and they often come
yeah,
out to see me like, "Hey, I don't want to pass this on." I think my brother dealt with that. Never had kids. He passed away early. I want people to know there's so much more to being a parent than fluent speech. And
yeah,
I think I'm a good dad. I know you're a good dad. I think I like to see us people who stutter. We need to spread it more. We need to, because
exactly.
I think the level of us as being people who understand and can be compassionate.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of bad parents out there with fluent speech, right? So
I agree.
I
I
say
see
that.
it.
So my thought is, hey, if you're thinking about how am I going to have a family, what kind of job can I do? That's a message, man. But more like, hey,
Yeah,
the person who stutters, there's so many things that we have that are positive for us, and uh, that we're going to be great parents for that. I mean, for many of that. So
yeah,
go forth in life. I think that's a great message too for you. And
great.
Tony, you have that. You're able to be trusted with our government doing very important work. But there was a time there where you probably had some self doubts. I bet, right?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of self doubt. I know I shared my testimonial at the
Mhm.
St. Louis conference, and part of that was my personal story in like the summer of 2021, where I just got to a very dark place, which I hope no other person who stutters reaches, where I just was like, I didn't want to continue on with my life, had a plan and everything, and um, was gonna try just to proceed with it. And luckily, I texted my wife, Amanda, and she was able to call me and talk me out of it and get me to some good psychiatric help. But I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of either. It's a common thing we see in people who stutter that there are people who stutter that unfortunately commit suicide, and it's extremely tragic. And I think what we're doing is helping, but even we checked into previous statistics about it, and there's not a lot out there. Even though we know it's true, we know people who stutter do
Yeah,
commit suicide, and it's something that we need to look out for in the future and help. Right? So,
you
yeah,
do. Thank you, Tony. I think it's very important, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's an important message for people to know. And it can be the at least the eighth leading cause of premature death.
yeah,
And we do know that stuttering is associated with depression, and that's associated
correct,
with, and having lost a family member to that who also stuttered. My brother, I don't use the term commit suicide. I use the term victim of, because I
victim.
really
Yeah,
believe in and have patience with this, that the dark thoughts, those very dark thoughts, and we're not
yeah,
really in control. They're not in control. So that, to me, it's a victim of the depression and everything else. So I really
I
thank you
agree.
for sharing that. And that, there's hope and there's help. So if it's ever out there for anyone, get assistance for that, because Tony, I'm glad you're here. Everyone's happy for that. You're accomplishing great things. I appreciate you sharing and
Uh,
spreading that message. Let other people know. And I
you know,
think it's
honestly, like,
so very important.
for anybody else out there who has any dark feelings like that, personally, call me, try to contact me. However, I'm also on the Stars page. I run my own Facebook support group as well,
Yeah.
and I mean we're growing pretty much every day. And I talk to people from like Guatemala, like Nigeria,
Hmm.
Afghanistan, and stuff like that. And it's beautiful to talk to all these different people, but you're truly not alone in this. And there are people out there like me, Dr. McGuire, Stars, who want to see you succeed. So don't ever be afraid to try to reach out to your community.
That's right. And help physicians, hospitals, others. A community is going to help with this.
Yeah.
So, Tony, I thank you. What is your Facebook page? Go and give it a little bit of a, and what's it called?
Yeah. So my Facebook page is called, it is, let me just make sure. It is
What?
treatment for stuttering support group.
Mhm.
And I actually run it with one of our colleagues in Stars, Brian.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
was our photographer at the gala last year,
And he still is
and
our photographer. Yeah, he's going to
yeah,
become.
he
Yeah,
he's a great photographer, and
he's
we pretty much like run the page, and we try to promote like any like new research, have like some themes throughout the week, like say like for example, on like Mondays would be like a motivational Monday. We might pull a personal story from a person that's also within the group. Like, hey, they're in college and they just passed their final exam and they graduated. Right? That's a great story to share, right? So we try and just spread awareness, and then like on Wednesdays we'll have like sort of I guess like a medical testimonial where like we'll share like a peer reviewed article, talk about it, get the word out there and stuff. And parents come on there and like also ask some questions. And it's a great little community. So I think we're contributing positively towards the stuttering community. And I like the way our group is there. So, yeah.
wonderful. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. What would you
Yeah.
hope to the listeners today? Um, what would you hope they take away from your message from our conversation today?
Honestly, I know I've been like hammering about this a couple different times, but just, um, if you're a person who stutters out there, just don't ever let it hold you back. Do not let it hold you back. If you're a young kid, 17 or 18 years old, and you're like, man, how am I going to go to college? How am I going to give presentations, talk to people, go to a speech class, right? That's the scariest thing in our mind is like, how do I go to a speech class and have a
Yes.
class where all we do is talk, right?
Yes.
Just continue on. Just if you want to go into a career to be a cybersecurity professional, join the Air Force possibly, join into the military, whatever you have to do, just don't let it hold you back, and contribute by telling people around you what your stutter is, how you can help, what they can do to help you. Right, get involved in your community. Right, um, I think that's kind of the best thing you can do. Yeah,
Wonderful. Thank you, Tony. And relieve it, the guilt within ourselves. No shame within ourselves. This is biologically based. It's how we're wired. It's not, and I want parents not to have blame, right? It's
yeah,
the way things are. I thank you for that.
yeah,
Appreciate that. So I do want to thank you, Tony. I want people to refer to your Facebook page, also for individuals to please uh, follow us along our on our website, stutteringresearch.org. Click to our
yes,
events page as well, and subscribe to our newsletter. And feel free to follow us here on our podcast, Star Speak, which is understanding the science of stuttering. If you're a healthcare professional and want to learn more about stuttering, feel free to log on and take advantage of our CME courses that other healthcare professionals can receive continuing education credits. And we thank our joint sponsorship with St. Louis University
yep.
School of Medicine as well. I thank you to our guest, Tony De La Mora. Tony, thank
Thank
you
you.
for your great efforts in improving the lives of those of us who stutter. I appreciate you very much. I thank you for being an integral member of our STARS team. I thank everyone for listening today, and we'll join you next time.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it, Dr. McGuire. I'll see you all.
Thank you.